and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to work and live. Amen. Please honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Noon.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kennedy.
Here.
Councilor Leahy.
Here.
Councilor Laurie.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Mendonça.
Here.
Councilor Mercia.
Here.
It's 9 present.
Thank you. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence and darken chamber for John Jack Flood, beloved husband to Sharon Newell, who survives him. Jack attended St. Patrick Grammar School and was a graduate of Lowell High School in the class of 1942. Several months after the start of World War II, at the age of 17, Jack enlisted in the United States Army. Assigned as a lone scout to the 899th Tank Destroyer Battalion, Jack saw combat in North Africa, landed in Omaha Beach on D-Day, fought in the Forest region, the Forgotten Battle, in October 1944, and was deployed in the early days of the Battle of the Bulge to stop the German advance. Jack was the recipient of a Silver Star, a Bronze Star, 3 Purple Hearts, and the Croix de Guerre from both Belgium and France. Jack was employed by the United States Postal Service as a mail carrier for over 32 years. Jack was devoted to his church and was a lifelong parishioner of St. Patrick Church in Lowell, where he volunteered his time and services most of his life. In addition to his wife, Jack is survived by 2 sisters, Helen Byrne and Mary Vinton. He will be truly missed, and I'd like to take this opportunity to offer a moment of silence and darken chamber for Ann Golden, beloved wife of the late G. Douglas Golden, who died in June of this year, and with whom she had celebrated 51 years of marriage. Ann received her early education at St. Patrick Grammar School and graduated from St. Patrick High School with the class of 1946. Ann was a preschool teacher, beloved by parents and children alike. That I know, she had taught my granddaughter. She taught at the Greater Lowell Technical High School, taught shop until she retired in 1994. Ann was a devout communicant of St. Margaret Church of Lowell, where she was a member of the Blessed Virgin Mary Sodality and faithfully attended Eucharistic adoration each Thursday. She is survived by a son, Timmy Golden, a member of the Lowell Police Department, and her 3 cherished grandchildren, Lindsay Golden, Molly Golden, and Madeline Golden, all of Lowell. She was from the greatest generation, where she learned the value of hard work, family bond, and strong faith, with a wonderful, warm personality, willing to always help others. She was the best. We offer our sympathy to her family, relatives, and her many, many friends. And I would just briefly want to say that I'd like to offer the same moment of silence in darkened chamber for Dr. Mark Bound, widely known physician to residents of the Greater Lowell area and friend to all. When Dr. Bound came to the Lowell area, he headed the respiratory department at Lowell General Hospital for 25 years. He also ran the tuberculosis program in the city. He opened his own practice in Tingsboro, where he stayed for 30 years and was the doctor to many Lowellians. During his time, he was the school doctor in Dracut, and he also worked in the Lowell Health Department. He was a Tingsboro School Committee man for 3 years and a Tingsboro Board of Health Director for 12 years. He is survived by his beloved wife, Linda, and his 3 children, Sarah, Ashley, and Dorian. We offer our sympathy to his family, relatives, and many friends. He will be truly missed, as well as all those who passed away since we last met. Thank you very much for allowing me to say this.
Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Pat Britton. Pat was the daughter of Everett and Alice Britton. She grew up in the Swede Village For those who aren't familiar with Sweet Village, it's on the other Gorham Street. She graduated from the Butler School and Lowell High School, and she was a member of the former Sacred Heart Parish and now St. Marie's and the Holy Family Parish. Pat loved to travel, loved going to Ireland, and she survived by her brother Francis and her sister-in-law Pauline and Carol, and she was predeceased by her siblings Edward, Mary, John, Alice, Sissy, me, and Robert. And she also leaves a very close friend, M. Regina O'Loughlin, along with many nephews and nieces, and one would include her godchild, Kathleen Meehan Bailey. May she rest in peace.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to also offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Brendan Evans. Brendan he was almost a lifelong resident of the city of Lowell till just recently. He was a graduate of Lowell High School, the class of 1961. He was a loyal parishioner of St. Patrick's Church in the Acre section of the city. He was a U.S. Army veteran. He served in Vietnam. He was a court officer in the Ayer District Court for the better part of 30 years. He was very involved in the city, and he loved politics. So I just want to offer this moment of silence for him and his family. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd all please rise in a moment of silence and darken chambers. Next, we have under Mayor's business, citation recognizing heritage properties for the request of Council Laurie. Citation to offer on behalf of the City Council. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby congratulates Heritage Properties and the Bush and Watson families as they celebrate 35 years of providing quality rental housing for Lowell families. Since 1978, when Jack Bush and Jack Watson began building the company's portfolio with the purchase of the Brettonwood Estates, Heritage Properties has grown to include 8 apartment communities in the city of Lowell. Heritage Properties has been a strong community partner, donating time and money to a variety of organizations, including the House of Hope, Merrimack Repertory Theater, Greater Lowell Community Foundation, Big Brother, Big Sister, and the Merrimack Valley Food Bank. The entire city of Lowell extends its deepest wishes to the Heritage Properties for continued success in the next 35 years and beyond, giving this 10th day of September 2013. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Councilors, for this honor. And we've been in Lowell for 35 years, and as the Mayor pointed out, I'd like to think we're going to be here for 35 more. So thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this great city.
Thank you.
Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This came at my request, and I think really this idea formulated the past couple of weeks, and I'd like to really commend the fellow members of the council. I've been here now for just 2 years, but I've heard many councilors say it would be nice to bring businesses forward who have been doing business in the city for years, and of course, Heritage Properties is one of them. And so it's something I thought was a great idea that's been talked about on the council floor, and I just hope this tradition continues. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Next, we have a citation recognizing Debbie Daly of Debbie Daly Design and Raw Furnishings on grand opening of Market Street. We have a citation to offer on behalf of the City Council. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby welcomes Debbie Daly Designs and Raw Furnishings to its new location at 189 Market Street. The city is honored that Debbie, who has beautified countless homes in the city and beyond with her impeccable taste and eye for design, has chosen to continue to operate and expand her business here in Lowell. The entire city of Lowell extends its deepest wishes to Debbie for many years of continued success as she works to make our city even more spectacular from the inside out. Given this 22nd day of August 2013, this was presented, of course, before at the grand opening. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity for the recognition here tonight in front of the City Council. And I hope to continue my business in downtown Lowell and beautifying the homes of the neighbors as well. And it's been very well recognized by the neighborhood, and I'm enjoying the presence downtown. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And lastly, we have a proclamation to offer in recognition of the March of Dimes, October 3rd event as Robert Ziggy Burns Day in the city of Lowell. Whereas the March of Dimes was established by President Franklin Roosevelt 75 years ago to combat and eradicate polio, the disease that robbed him of the use of his legs, an affliction that in 1952 threatened 12-year-old Robert Ziggy Burns with the same fate. And whereas Ziggy's medical expenses were paid for by the March of Dimes, and he went on not only to walk again, but to play quarterback for the Lowell High School football team, an experience for which he is forever thankful to the March of Dimes. And whereas throughout his adult life, Ziggy has championed and supported the March of Dimes in their mission to improve the health of mothers and babies by preventing birth defects, premature birth, and infant mortality. For this dedication, Ziggy has been named the March of Dimes Citizen of the Year and will be honored as such on October 3rd. Now therefore I, Patrick O'Murphy, Mayor of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim October 3rd, 2013 as Robert Ziggy Burns Day in the City of Lowell, given this day, actually 10th of September, 2013. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since we have someone here who was appointed to a board and confirmed a couple of weeks ago, and he's already been voted on and confirmed, I really don't think it's in anywhere here on the agenda, but if we could bring him forward tonight right now so he could come forward at this time.
Motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Mercy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Mr. Dakota.
Mr. Murphy, Mayor Murphy, City Manager Lynch, members of the City Council, I want to extend my appreciation on the appointment. I look forward to working with Mr. Occasion and Mr. Krieger and serving the citizens of the City of Lowell. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have under the City Clerk's portion of the agenda, minutes of the City Council meeting of August 27th, the Finance Subcommittee of September 3rd for acceptance. So moved by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Under the City Auditor's portion of the agenda, we have a communication for the June and July grants and also the August year-to-date budget reports. Any discussion? Entertain a motion then to accept and place on file. So moved by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have the City Manager's portion of the agenda. Communication. City Manager responses to City Council motions and requests. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had several motions come back this week, and in one form or another. The first one was the request to name a basketball court at the Bowers Complex for Michael John Prestopino. And I want to thank the board, the Board of Parks, the commissioners, for that vote. And the second one was to name the Lowell High School practice field at Cawley Stadium for William Desmond Jr., and that was at the request of the parents of the Pop Warner and the kids who played Pop Warner. And again, I want to thank the board for that. There were two reports that I put in a motion about a year ago, and we had a report from the manager, but they seem to be done now. One was the garage memo. I'd put a request in at the time when we were changing the companies collecting the money and running the parking garages, and I thought it would be a good time to look at the conditions of the garages and what type of reinvestment we'd be making in the next couple of years. And I want to thank the manager for that report. They're all in pretty good shape, I think, but one needs some work. So I want to thank the manager, and I want to thank the Lowell students who took part in that, the engineering students who took part in that, and came up with that report. The other one is the Problem Property Task Force. I had put this in about a year ago, and I want to compliment Assistant to the City Manager, Henry Marchand. He heads that program now, and I guess we're down to 10 properties, the 10 worst in the city, or the 10 that we're going to target. And one I was very happy to see was 603 Chelmsford Street. This motion for a Problem Property Task Force came directly from walking the neighborhood one night, just talking to residents. And the biggest problem in that part of the Highlands was 603 Chelmsford Street, and it was turned over to the Law Department, and it seems we're very close to taking this property over in a short time. So in a very short time, I think the families in and around 603 Chelmsford Street will be very happy to see that property get turned over to a new owner, and we can start work there. And, you know, as I said, I want to compliment Assistant to the City Manager, Henry Marchand. I know the City Treasurer is here tonight. She's part of that. Adam Bakey, and I know the police, the fire. I do have one question. If we have 10 properties, say, on the task force now, one or two gets resolved, do we slide 2 more in? Do we keep 10 going?
It's our intention. We had a larger number of properties that we were identified as problem properties, varying degrees. So as we take some off, we will continue to add back onto that. So there's always 10 that are in front of us.
Oh, that's good. That way we'll keep up with the problems in the neighborhood. And as I said, this motion came directly from that Chelmsford Street, and I want to thank the administration. I had found Boston was doing it, and I thought it was a good idea, and I brought it here. And again, congratulations to everyone involved, and I think we're well on our way of starting to clean up some of the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although many great happenings have transpired over the past 2 weeks, and in our packet, we got so many good, interesting things, such as the new bond rating, very, very efficient, and congratulations to all of us and all of the administrators that helped to make that happen. Not an easy thing to do, but it helps our borrowing power to a wonderful degree. But I do want to focus on a pet issue that I have, and not just myself. There are many councilors over the years that had a same motion to try to get safety from the people that are in the senior center that go across the street to the market basket. But as I observed many times, it isn't just the seniors, it's kids, it's neighborhood people, it's people in wheelchairs, it's people in the motorized scooters, it's children that, they're not accompanied all the time by their parents. So it seemed that it wasn't going to happen, and I kind of was a little bit harsh with the manager, saying, listen, I know you can find a way, please do it, to the point where I was a little bit pig-headed. I said, please make it happen, and I knew that he would do that, and we got a beautiful memo that said that the crosswalk will be there, that he found a way. It isn't just a simple crosswalk, but his idea was very costly. But when you have a good monumental idea, and safety is a factor, it was associated with a very high cost. And so through our efforts of the senior center, we did get some substantial donors. One lady donated quite a bit of money. Seniors gave money as well. But it was still not enough. And a donor, an anonymous donor, who I'm sure we all know, came forward with a very significant amount of money, to the point where we're going to have a state-of-the-art art crosswalk there. And it'll be, provide safety for the many people that cross there. And it would be identified with solar-powered flashing pedestrian push-button activated warning signs on each side of the crosswalk. And if anybody traveled in that immediate area lately, you could see that the work has begun, and it won't end right away because we're gonna wait till we get that light that will activate through the solar power and be a flashing light to facilitate early in November. So I'm just so proud of everybody, and I'm sorry that I was kind of rude, but when you have a burning desire for people and seniors, you want to make things happen, and you delivered, and I want to congratulate and thank you, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilor. We did have a very interesting conversation about this topic some time ago, and I know this has been a topic that a number of people have looked at, and obviously our intent was to try to make it safe for people to cross there, but a simple crosswalk probably would have been more hazardous.
Right.
But with you on my mind, I did see a crosswalk in another community that I thought could work, and obviously, I'm not a traffic engineer. I turned it over to the traffic engineers at DPD, and they came up with the solution, and I'm happy to hear that it's being well received. I think it's a good project for the city and good for that location.
On behalf of the seniors and the neighbors and the children in that immediate area, we thank you. Thanks a lot.
Councilman Donza, then Council New.
Yeah, a couple of items. One is, Council Laurie has already noted, is the garage memo. And it was good to have UMass Project take that on and give us some highlights as to what some of the deficiencies might be. And some of it were concerning at some of our older garages. So I thought it might be worth more attention. So I'd like to move to refer that to the Facilities Subcommittee.
Second. Motion by Councilman Donza, seconded by Council Laurie. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Councilman Donza.
Yeah, and the other item is as a result of the mayor's motion regarding the senior center and how it's being, its rent's being funded. I'd like to refer that to the finance subcommittee so that we could hear some ways that might be shifted away from CDBG funding.
Motion by Councilman Donza, seconded by Council Laurie. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted.
That's it. Thank you.
Council New.
Thank you, Mayor Murphy. I want to thank the administration, particularly Mr. Backey, Adam Backey, for report on a Butler School project. We got a letter from the developer reaffirm his commitment and financial ability to complete the project. So I appreciate that, the report. And Mr. Backey, appreciate that. On the other note is the motion by you, Mayor, regarding Couple Square. I know that the Couple Square future project will certainly achieve a number of good objective, particularly the economic development in that area. So with that said, I'd like to see if we can refer it to the Economic Development Subcommittee.
Motion by Council New, seconded by Councilman Donza. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else under communications? Council Laurie. Excuse me, Council Leahy.
Thank you. Under communications, I just wanted to bring up two small items that I had mentioned to the manager earlier. I noticed today with the garbage trucks, they tend to stop in the middle of the road, and they're kind of hazardous for drivers because they should be pulling over, staying to the far right as they're emptying recycling bins. So if we could make a call and make sure that they're not doing that. And the second thing was the Lexington Ave site. They've been using that for, I guess, gas replacement lines, and the neighbors asked if we could just find out how long that project's gonna go on, because they do start at 7 on the dot, and the dust and the noise in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Council Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just going back briefly to the bond upgrade report and what that will mean. Last year, and I know Mr. Moses isn't here, we spent, and it was through the subcommittee that Councilor Ed Kennedy chairs with Jim Leary, combined subcommittee. We had over 900 slips that we invested money back into the school. I think it was between $3-4 million. And I know the administration's wishes are, along with the council, over the next couple of years to really look at maybe bonding money to pave streets, become much more aggressive. I know the mayor wrote the letter. The governor wrote us $1 million this year, and next year we'll probably get 1 or 2. But I know the city wants to aggressively look at the streets over the next couple of years. What type of savings are we looking at with the higher bond rating, just for the public to get an idea?
For the, as Mr. Moses did send a memo to me regarding this issue, that he estimates that the 10 basis points that we benefit by this bond rating, that we'll save about $1 million over the next 20 years on the bond issues that are before the council now, or the one that we did back in the spring, the water and wastewater, and then the years 2 through 5 of our capital plan. I actually think it will be greater than that. If you, the rating agencies give a credit report, and they actually, while they give these improved ratings and improved outlooks, the actual text of the reports with regards to our financial planning and our reserve levels, and what we've done in identifying and addressing some of our OPEB liabilities, the end result was that we had very good interest rates on the bids that we received on the bonds that we just went out on. So I actually think they'll exceed that $1 million. And obviously that only takes us out a couple of years when we calculate those capital budgets. Moving forward beyond that, if we're going to continue to invest in the city, if we talk about doing something with the high school, or putting even more money into our streets and sidewalks, obviously that grows by another $500,000 to $1 million moving forward. So every little bit helps. And so the bond rating was, and before we can get a better bond rating, we had to get this one. So the more we continue to keep on the path, and that was the greatest concern of the rating agencies. They essentially, they listen to us with regards to our economic development. They listen to us in regards to our fiscal year 13 that was just completed. In fiscal year 14, which we're in, but they were mostly concerned with the work that took place between fiscal year 7 through 12. And the changes that have been made during that period of time, and they want to make sure that that progress continues. And if that progress continues, it's not out of the question that we'll have future upgrades. They don't come easy, but we're on the right path.
No, and I appreciate that. Over the next couple of years, the city will be, you know, I talked about the schools and the roads, but over the next couple of years, we're looking at the Hamilton Canal District. We'll be investing. I know Mr. Bakey's here. Anyone who has gone to the Tanner Street Initiative meetings, the investments will be put in that area. And now with Prince Macaroni, with an access road, possibly even at the Prince Macaroni. And those are possibly 3 big industrial commercial sites for the city over the next 10 years. No, I just want to thank you. I had read it was about $1 million we could be saving, but I just want to, but it could be more.
It could, I think in all likelihood it will.
And it could lead to a higher rating at this point, too.
Moving forward,
with the reinvestments in the city.
Right.
You know, last year we had the auditors here, and I had never really been through this before, and we were talking about reinvestments and how much the city was reinvested in its infrastructure, and now it's growing rapidly. And I was happy to hear from the auditors that they really look at the reinvestment in a positive light and how much we should be doing.
Along those same lines, that's something that the rating agencies look at as well. As I say, they were very pleased with the results that we could show from 12 and what we could talk about for 13, because we haven't finished the closeouts of that. But they were very much interested, too, in the capital budgets that we're doing, the amount of borrowing we're doing, the type of investments that we're making, particularly as it relates to adding to additional economic development. It was very helpful for us to give them the tour of the city, where we were able to show them what's going on at the Hamilton Canal, what's going on over near the arena. We talked to them about the Tanner Street area. We showed them some of the mill buildings that have been renovated. And again, all of those show a city on the move. But what's crucial to that, crucial to getting people to come in and invest, and I know councilors here have talked about this as well, and I have spoken of it. The bond rating also, beyond just the rates that it gives us, it's also looked at by developers as giving some sense of how stable the community is. And they look at the economic development, so it's sort of a cycle there. The better rating we have, the more investment we're going to receive, and the more investment we receive, the better rating we're going to receive. So it just continues to go in that direction. But that, again, that's why it's crucial that they were very concerned that the reserves be maintained. They were very concerned that if we run into problems down the road, that we have the wherewithal to address those issues without touching those reserves, going after those reserves. And again, they were pleased with the financial planning, the forecasting, the policies that we've adopted through the years, and so that was all very gratifying.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Anyone else under communications? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask for suspension of the rules to ask the manager about this regarding the Lowell Housing Authority report that just came out yesterday, so I didn't have time to file a motion. And considering the nature of the report, I think it's time sensitive. We're not meeting for another 2 weeks, so I think it's important that we have a discussion about.
Regardless of
this.
whether we're meeting in 2 weeks or not, it's not on the agenda.
I
And so
understand it wasn't on the agenda, as I just mentioned, Mr. Mayor. The report just came out yesterday, so I couldn't file a motion.
That's right. But you can file a motion for 2 weeks from now.
Well, personally, I think that shouldn't wait for 2 weeks. I think the report just came out, and I think that we should discuss it tonight. Why do we want to wait for it? There's some time sensitivity to this. I mean, we should be involved from the get-go. It is the city of Lowell. I understand it's a housing authority, but I believe it meets those two criterias, and I see no reason why, considering we're meeting every other week, or unless we want to have a special meeting, I'm fine with that too, but I don't think it makes any sense to meet and delay this for 2 weeks.
Well, suspension of the rules doesn't allow for suspension of state law, and we don't have anything on the agenda to discuss.
Motion was.
I don't think that, in fact, it's of a time-sensitive nature. I think that we can discuss it in 2 weeks from now, and so I don't see that meeting the second criterion. Councilor Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had seen the report, and it is scathing. At the top of the page, it says if you have...
Councilor Laurie, there hasn't been a suspension of the rules.
Okay, but you asked. You addressed me, and I'm
Motion was
just
suspend the
talking.
rules, so the
I
second.
addressed you because you raised your hand.
And I was going to follow up with Councilor Elliott.
There hasn't been a
Second the motion.
suspension of the rules.
Okay, fine.
Second, if there is
No, there isn't a suspension of the rules. I've just ruled, as chair, that it doesn't meet the open meeting requirements. So there's no suspension. So unless there's anything else to be brought up at this time, we'll continue with the rest of the agenda.
Point of information, motion was made and it was seconded and requires a roll call vote to suspend the rules.
The motion is out of order.
Motion's not out of order, Mr. Mayor, I don't
Of
know
course
where.
it's out of order, because I just said
Motion was made and
that a
seconded.
motion to suspend the rules does not override state law.
That's your interpretation. We have Robert's rules here.
Right. And
Mr. Mayor,
as chair,
I'll let you speak. and then
as
you let me
chair, I am the interpreter of what's allowed. And the ruling's been made.
speak. As the chair,
If you'd like to appeal the ruling,
You speak.
you may.
motion was made and was seconded to suspend the rules. The reason for the suspension was stated, and that requires a roll call. It's not subject to the chair's decision whether to interpret the open meeting law.
Madam Solicitor, would you care to weigh in, please?
Well, as far as Robert's rules, the mayor is the chair of the meeting, and from the exchange that has taken place, the mayor had ruled initially that the motion was out of order, that the matter wasn't on the agenda. And as such, any sort of further action on the motion would be out of order.
Councilor Elliott.
First of all, the solicitor is not the parliamentarian, you're the chair. And if you don't want to take this and discuss one of the most important issues affecting the city and the tenants in the city, shame on you. You are completely derelict in your responsibilities because you don't want to discuss a report that came out yesterday. It's very important to the people in this city. It's very important to me. It's a scathing and damning report. And it's not going to violate any open meeting law. There is reasons why this body... Can I finish? Please don't interrupt me, because you don't like to get interrupted. There are reasons why there is a mechanism for
What is the point of your speaking right now?
suspension of the rules. There is a reason for this, particularly for this. Agendas are set.
We've established criteria for actually having a suspension of the rules. We've discussed that with every single councilor here. You seem to be the only person who doesn't understand those criteria.
I understand the rules very well. I just like to discuss the public's business in a timely manner, not delay it because you don't want to talk about it because you can't be bothered. There's $11 million, whether it's City of Lowell taxpayers'
Councilor
money
Elliott,
or anybody else.
Not a question of whether
Shame
I
on
do
you for not wanting to talk
or
about
don't
it.
want to
You
discuss
just
a
don't. You're
particular
not going to
matter.
quiet me as long as I'm sitting here because you don't put me in the seat. The
You're out of
people
order.
of the City of Lowell
You are
put
out
me
of
here.
order.
So, roll call.
There isn't a roll call because there isn't a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Martin.
I move to accept the communications from the city manager, place on file.
Move to accept and place on file by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Being after 7 o'clock, we have the general public hearing. A vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 32, Section 20, 4H, to increase the stipend of the city treasurer for services rendered as custodian of the funds of the retirement system. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote, accepting Section 24H of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 32, as amended. I'd open it up at this time for those wishing to speak in favor. In favor? In favor. Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. I'd open it up for those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? In opposition. Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council? Councilor Mendonça.
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Mendonça. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Any discussion? Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It asks for an increase for the stipend to the city treasurer. Now, what we're voting on, it's my understanding, is not to increase the stipend, but allowing the board that the city treasurer sits on to, okay.
Mr. Mayor, for point of clarification for the councilor, she doesn't actually sit, she provides services to the retirement system, as has all of her predecessors. They look to the treasurer to reconcile their books with the books of the city, and there's additional work that goes with that, additional responsibilities. And this stipend goes back decades, and there's now statute that allows that to be modified, and they've asked for that right, not necessarily to do it, but the right to do it if they so chose.
So we don't vote on the stipend, just allowing them to raise it if they feel it's necessary?
That's correct, and that's right. This is their decision, and this was their request.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see the treasurer's here. Could she give us a description on what services she provides or what she does for the retirement system?
Good evening, through the Mayor.
Ms.
Good
Cordero.
evening, ladies and gentlemen. Currently, what I do is I reconcile all the cash accounts for the retirement system, and maintain all the bank accounts, do the transfers and that type of thing. PEREC was in a number of years ago. They did an audit report, and that was one of the largest deficiencies within that department. For the cash accounts, the treasurer at that time was not balancing on a monthly basis. There has been a new report since then, an addendum to that audit. It came out in December of 12, and currently all the bank statements are being reconciled with the general ledger to the retirement system on a monthly basis.
So you're doing that, or is your staff
Yes.
doing it?
No, I'm personally doing that.
And when do you do it? You do it during the day?
I will do that during the day, yes.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Noon.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
No.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Madonza.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 nay.
Thank you. Next, we
Mr.
have
Mayor?
Councilor Kennedy.
I had asked to be recognized before the public hearing, but evidently you chose not to. Anyways, what I would like is to get an opinion from the city solicitor as to whether or not, if we had moved for suspension of the rules, not pertaining to Robert's rules, but pertaining to the state law, would it be appropriate to talk about the housing authority even though it's not on the agenda this evening? And I think that was your point, but I'd like to have a ruling from the city solicitor on that point.
Madam Solicitor.
Would you mind just going over that one more time? I just want to make sure.
When the mayor asked you for your opinion was regarding Robert's rules. I think the reason that the mayor rejected the motion to suspend the rules was because of the state law regarding the open meeting law. So my question is, do you have an opinion as to whether or not it would be a violation of the open meeting law to discuss the matters at the recent matters at Lowell Housing Authority under suspension of the rules?
Anyone else before we continue with the regularly scheduled agenda? Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, I was expecting to get that. Can we get that opinion right now, or is that something that's going to take some time?
Sure, I can at least give you an initial opinion, and then I can also follow that up with a more formal opinion with spending some time looking at the issue more carefully. Obviously, what you've asked is a very specific issue. However, in the process of going over I guess the issue that the council was frequently addressing, or at least from time to time with some regularity, was motions to suspend the rules. At times also there are motions for point of personal privilege, and I can deal with that separately. But with respect to the motion to suspend the rules, the opinion of the Attorney General's office is such that all items to be discussed should be on the agenda, and that is their position. Now, when we contacted the Attorney General's office and went over ideas that we had to make these rules, which sometimes can be rather inflexible, a bit more workable, some of what we discussed was this test of which the mayor spoke, that if there was some emergency type of situation, then clearly you would be able to proceed. If there was some dire timeliness associated with it, and we were otherwise prevented from timely placing it on the agenda, those were things that would be considered if there was a complaint and if it was being looked at by their office. It goes without saying, however, that regardless of whether there's a complaint, our goal and our efforts are to comply with the law as we understand it. And so we had gone over those issues with the Attorney General's office. They thought they were fairly reasonable. There isn't a large body of work since the law has been changed. And again, their position is simply, it needs to be on the agenda if it is to be discussed. And I think their position is that what we looked upon as a type of flexibility that would allow us to function likely would be reasonable, but they would have to do it on a case-by-case basis.
So then the opinion of the law department would be that the mayor's contention that it would be out of order or in violation of state law is that
Would likely be correct. That's
Yep,
correct.
okay. Thank you.
And if I may, this came up as well, as long as we're on the subject, and I'll make it very quick. With respect to the point of personal privilege, and I had provided the council with a report on that quite some time ago, but since it has come up, I think, on more than one occasion since then, there really is no point of personal privilege that would allow you to bring up topics that, again, are not on the agenda. A point of personal privilege is to be used very sparingly and in very limited circumstances, and it really has to do more with any sort of a technical problem, your microphone isn't working, someone's ill in the chamber, and things of that nature. Okay.
Councilor Elliott?
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the solicitor. On the two ways that we can speak on issues that are not on the agenda, wouldn't this Lowell Housing Authority report meet that criteria? Nope, no one here, we just got the report. The report was just released Monday. We don't meet for 2 weeks. I think there is time sensitivity to it, and there was no way for us to be able to put something on the agenda to speak to it, and it is very important. So why, I think that's a perfect, that's one of the perfect ways, or one of the significant reasons why we would be able to bring it up.
It's not perfect.
Well, I'll appeal your ruling. What is your ruling based on, Mr. Mayor? I appeal the ruling.
Two tests. The first, it did pass. The second, it did not. The second is whether or not there's actually an urgent need to discuss it now. Is there a time-sensitive nature to it?
Yes, there is. We're not going to meet for 2 weeks.
No, it's not just based on your own judgment or opinion. That there's a that there's some kind of deadline that we have to
Well, it shouldn't be based on your opinion either. That's why I made a suspension to have this
Actually,
body.
it is. That's what's called for in our council rules.
That's why I asked this body to vote on it.
That's why the ruling has already been made, and that's why we ought to move on with the rest of the agenda. If you want to appeal to the rest of the council, by all means.
I appeal to the rest of the council.
Motion to appeal by Councilor Elliott. Is there a second?
Second to appeal.
There's a second by Councilor Mercia. Roll call, please. Councilman Donza.
Just clarification on what a yes or no vote means. Does a yes vote means that we agree with the mayor, or a no vote mean agree with the mayor? Which one?
I would leave it to the mayor to set the rules. The other, I guess, question I would raise is procedurally, the matter had been, I thought, closed. However, I would leave it to the mayor as the chair to determine if there is going to be a vote, to signify what the vote is. I think that would help clarify matters.
The,
A yes vote agree with the appeal, and a no vote disagree.
a yes would be in support of the appeal by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Leahy.
So what does this do? We vote for the appeal and then what?
You can vote for the appeal. You can have a majority support the appeal, overturn my ruling as chair, and violate state law. That's what you can do. Councilor Kennedy.
Mr. Mayor, that's a little harsh, but I do think this. I think that essentially the motion...
I'm doing a summary because I want to move this meeting along.
I think that the motion that's before us really is a challenge to the chair, which is a pretty serious business in my view, and I'm not sure that it's necessary. I would just point out that the Housing Authority Commissioners are meeting tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be on their agenda, and it's probably best that they take it up first. I also think that you are correct in that there is no reason, there is nothing that can happen regarding that audit report that is going to be detrimental between now and 2 weeks. So there's no reason not to wait 2 weeks, and it's probably prudent to wait until the commissioners have their chance to speak on it before the council weighs in.
Council Noon, Council Laurie.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I thought the matter was close. Second, I concur with Councilor Kennedy that, yes, the issue was under low sun. However, even the chairperson for the Commission of Low Housing have no comment on it because they have a meeting tomorrow to discuss this matter. So they are the body that have the inner working with this agency. Shouldn't we have them meet and discuss this matter before we take up the matter as suggested by Councilor Kennedy? I think we should. Thank you.
Council Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I concur with Councilor Kennedy to see what the LHA board's going to do. What I started to say, what I was going to say earlier is I believe the LHA is 120 days to answer any part of that letter, well, answer the letter quicker, so it's not that we have to do it tonight. I think even they have 120 days to look at the situation and come up with an answer. And I concur with Councilor Kennedy. Let's see what they say at the meeting tomorrow night and see what road they're going to take. So.
Roll call.
Mayor Murphy.
No.
Councilor Nguyen.
No.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
No.
Councilor Leahy.
No.
Councilor Laurie.
No.
Councilor Martin.
No.
Councilor Madonza.
No.
Councilor Mercier.
No.
1 yea, 8 nays.
Next, we have a communication from the city manager, requests approval of out-of-state travel, one for the Lowell Police Department and one for Cool.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Councilor Noon, seconded by Councilor Mercier. Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Laurie. Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Madonza.
Yes.
Councilor Mercier.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas, excuse me.
Next, we have a communication to accept the resignation of Mark Breer from the Election Commission. Motion to accept and place on file, so moved by Councilman Donson, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, I think we all know, most of us know Mr. Breer well and appreciate his service. I have a question for the manager. I mean, we have elections coming up. Do you anticipate the opportunity to appoint somebody new? Do we need to have somebody new? Can we survive with the commission the way it is through this election cycle?
Mr. Manager.
Councilor, I think we can certainly survive with the current representation on the board through the preliminary. It's my intention to have that filled out for the general election.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. Somewhat related, Mr. Mayor. We received the communication today. There's going to be some polling changes, Mr. Manager, and how are people supposed? How are they going to know that? I mean, we don't send a mailing out to each to each voter, do we?
I'm going to refer that to the solicitor.
I know there's only a couple, but we just got it today, and the election's, a short time away, so.
Correct. And what we, the Board of Commissioners has been addressing this with some issues that have been raised by residents regarding handicap accessibility, regarding problems with people coming in that haven't received query checks into schools, and there are a number of other issues that they've been working through. What we did for this first round is limit it really to the ones that were in close proximity, the new locations. This will be phased in over time, but we've received a number of complaints through the years about the Masonic building. The Tsongas is seen as a much more viable option, so anyone that goes to the Masonic will be directed to the Tsongas, but we will be, I'll let the solicitor talk about the notification process for the residents. The people that go to the I believe it's the Wang will be directed to the adjacent school to vote there.
Right.
So it's within close
That's an
walking
easy one,
distance.
but what they
Right.
have to move, I mean, you're just going to reach out to the residents and let them know, so election day, they're not showing up somewhere where they shouldn't be? Okay.
Sure. As required by law, we are sending off notices, and they've been sent to all of the affected residents. So each residence that houses voters that will be affected will actually receive written notice.
Okay.
And they'll receive that this week. In
you.
addition, notices have gone out not only to all of the candidates, but also to neighborhood groups, posted on our website, and the manager also walked you through some of the reasons. There are other issues that ultimately will be addressed, but it was decided to take a balancing approach to ensure that there would be no major disruption during the voting. And so the next cycle, not for the general city council elections, but the next election that we have coming up, we will see some more changing in the polling locations, and that should complete the process. One of the issues that we hadn't mentioned, aside from the ADA, there's also requirements with respect to liquor establishments,
Right.
and that's problematic, having the polling locations at some of the sites that we've had in the past, and that will be again rectified
Right,
the next time around.
Because I got a call from a resident about polling locations where alcohol is being served, and is that a violation of the state law?
That is.
But there's not enough time to change those
Well,
locations?
no, there would be enough time to change. However, I think that there may be a drawback if we had a wholesale change of a number of polling locations all at once. So this was designed to do it in a limited, controlled fashion. We changed the ones that we really had the most complaints about and the most problems associated with. We also, in doing this, we had a meeting with the leaders of the neighborhood groups, and they were given an opportunity to share problems that they've seen over the years at the different polling locations. And we also met with the Disability Commission. They highlighted
Right.
some of the major issues with the Masonic, and they actually have volunteered to attend our next poll worker training session, so that poll workers can get a sense from members of the Disability Commission as to the types of challenges that they have when they go to vote.
Okay, thank you.
And while we're on the subject, I think it is, because there was so much discussion about this, I think it is important to point out for councilors that this, in fact, is a perfect time to discuss something that's not on the agenda, because it was provided to you after the Friday deadline, but there is a time-sensitive nature to it, because there is a deadline of the preliminary election on the same day as our next meeting. So this is the kind of thing that would be admissible as something to talk about. It's not necessarily on the agenda, but is important for the public to know about. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Could we get an explanation on why we switched schools? Why did we go from middle school to an elementary school? What was the thinking behind that?
Sure. There were apparently some, again, accessibility problems with the Wang School, and also I think size was a factor. So the new change, it's in the same complex, and last night members of the election staff met with the group from Pawtucketville, and it's my understanding that the change is one that is welcomed by people in the neighborhood.
I assume that my concern is if school's in, the polls are where they are now, but when we're going from middle school to a elementary school, kids there are younger, So that would be a concern for me, so.
Right. One of the changes that, in working with the school department, and they've been very helpful and very accommodating as we've worked through some of these different issues, is that for the general election, schools will be closed. The only problem with a preliminary election is that to do it for the preliminary election, there's always the uncertainty of whether you're actually even going to have an election that day. But moving forward, we're not going to be having elections on the same days that the schools are open.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Council Lowry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm all set with the answer. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Next, we have a communication to accept the resignation of Camonte Parish from the Conservation Commission. Motion to accept and place on file. So moved by Councilman Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you for your service, Mr. Parrish. Next communication, to appoint Colleen D. Brady, Jay Haley, and Carolyn Delahante to the Lowell Cultural Council. Not requiring approval of the council. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We actually have the members that are newly appointed here. If perhaps each could come to the microphone, if they don't mind, and just identify themselves and tell us how happy they are to be serving.
Well, I'm Colleen Dawn Brady, and I am very happy to be serving to a city that's given me so much. I'm happy to try to give something back. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Delahanty, and I'm a Lowell resident, 51 years, and I'm looking forward to giving back to my community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jay Haley, and I'm a new resident as of about May, I think. Is that when it was? Yes, and I'm very excited to be brought into the fold for a city whose motto is, "Art is the handmaid of human good."
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I really, with all seriousness, I really should have noted that the resumes of each one of these individuals is in your packet, and I think the councils would all agree. They all come with extensive backgrounds and experiences that will serve the Cultural Council well, as the Cultural Council plays such an important role here in the city in really advancing that notion of art as the handmaid of human good, and the whole notion of the creative economy, and really making the city of Lowell a better place to live, work, and visit. So I want to thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you. Motion to accept and place. Motion to accept and place on file by Councilman Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion is an order, 60-day trial for various. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Noon, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council order. Pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266, thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. It's the wish of the council.
Move approval.
Move to approve by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Noon. Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Laurie. Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mendonça.
Yes.
Council Mercier.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to approve the plan change to the Acre Urban Revitalization Development Plan. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Noon, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title. In City Council vote. Authorizing city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to request approval for the following plan change to the Acre Urban Revitalization and Development Plan for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development. What's the wish of the council? Move to approve by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Councilor Noon. Excuse me, Councilor Leahy.
Just on this article here, so this is the stone building that's in the corner of the
That's correct.
lot, okay. And was there any interest with the school department in that building at all, or, I mean, I know over the years when we developed that site, school department was interested in it, and then something happened where we
Yeah,
over,
The amendment that's before you to the acre plan is a fairly modest change to take the property that contains the historic stone building that is in the same block as where the Stocklosa School was constructed from its current status in the plan, which was for the city to retain the ownership of it. The original plan envisioned, I think, some administrative offices associated with the Stocklosa School occupying that building. As that project proceeded, there was not, I guess the resources were not available to make that happen at the time. Subsequent to that, as part of a legal settlement with a party that contested an eminent domain acquisition that was part of assembling the site for the Stocklosa School, as part of the resolution of that, the agreement that's been reached is to convey that building to that party to settle the eminent domain lawsuit. So the plan needs to be changed to allow the city to convey that parcel to a private party. I know over the years, to answer your question more directly, over the years the school department or various officials within the school department have expressed some curiosity, shall we say, about the building, but when they found out the costs that would be associated with actually using the building for whatever purpose was proposed at the time, they immediately realized it was not practical or feasible for them. So I'm not aware of any feasible interest on the part of the school department at this point, but it is important to be able to proceed with resolving what is really the last, I believe, the last outstanding eminent domain matter in any of our urban renewal plans at the moment, which would be, I think, a fairly impressive accomplishment for the law department to be able to wrap this up.
Are there any restrictions on the property where it's on the corner of a school property?
What would you mean by, what do you have in mind?
You're right on the corner. It's basically on the property of a school ground. So are there going to be any restrictions of use for that building?
Well, I guess I'm still not sure I understand what the restrictions you have in mind
Well, we're going
might
to turn
be.
this property over, right?
Yes.
So what if something opens up there that we don't approve on school grounds? Zoning issue or?
Well, zoning does apply to the property once it's,
Yeah.
you know, and obviously they would be allowed to utilize the property consistent with zoning. Most, if not all, of the types of uses I could imagine that might be problematic, again, I'm not sure exactly what you're envisioning.
Well, I'm just,
would require a special permit and participation by the abutters and that sort of thing, and such a special permit would be unlikely to be granted if it were viewed as a problem with the school as a neighbor.
But we all know what happened downtown to the high school, so I don't want to see any problems happen on a middle school. So that's what I'm asking. Do we have any rights to, you know, object or limit what business may go in there? I mean, what if, I can't think of anything specific, but what if something went in there that we didn't want so close to a school? That's my
Again,
issue.
I guess without specifics, it's hard to respond.
Well, we know
any
the
of
property's on the corner of a middle school.
That's true, yes.
So, just seems like we've had issues come up where businesses open up too close to a school, and then we complain about it after the fact. Here we have a chance to make sure that something doesn't go, that's inappropriate on school grounds.
Well, again, it won't be on school grounds.
Well,
because it will be
it's touching.
an
It's
adjacent private
basically school.
parcel
Yeah.
upon disposition.
All right, well,
If there is a specific thing you're concerned about, I can address that, but in
Well,
this
I can't-
abstract, it's very difficult
Right now, I
to-
don't know, but I can
to
imagine.
respond.
So.
Councilor
All right.
Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, but this vote is just amending the plan, right? If there's actually going to be a disposition of this parcel, does that have to come back to the council for vote?
I believe that will be the case as
So-
well. But at this point, all you're doing is changing, a very modest change to the plan, which basically currently states that it would be retained by the city, to change the plan to say the city is allowed to dispose of it.
Right, and I get it, it's got to go to DHCD and be approved at the state level and all that.
Yeah, the plan
before-
change has to be approved by
Right.
DHCD, and then only after that can we actually discuss the actual disposition of the building.
Okay, so we'll have another shot.
But if you, again, Counselor, if I may, if you do have a specific concern, we certainly can look at that and see if we can address it. It's just difficult when it isn't specific to address all possibilities beyond what zoning protects.
Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. Could you just let us know what the current zoning is, Mr. Bakey?
I believe I actually don't know off the top of my head, but I believe it's urban mixed use, I think.
And what types of urban mixed use, so retail and housing?
Yeah, I mean, urban mixed use in general promotes residential and the kinds of commercial uses that would be compatible with a neighborhood setting. So, retail, small, modest retail stores for, neighborhood businesses, office uses that are fairly innocuous next to residential uses, and that sort of thing. Obviously, the types of uses that are statutorily protected are protected regardless of our zoning or anything else, but things like education uses and
Right.
things of that sort.
Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Noon.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mendonça.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to apply, accept, expend a grant of $572,000 from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for Phase 3A west of the Concord River Greenway. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Laurie, second by Council Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to apply for, to accept, and expend a parkland acquisitions and renovations for Communities Park Grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, Division of Conservation Services for the construction of Phase 3A west of the Concord River Greenway in the city of Lowell. What's the wish of the council? Move for approval by Council Elliott, second by Council Laurie. Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Noon.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mendonça.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to apply, accept, and expend a grant of $1.5 million for fiscal year 14 for the Mass Works infrastructure for Hamilton Canal. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Laurie, second by Council Mendonça. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote. Authorizing city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell, acting through the Department of Planning and Development, to apply for, to accept, and expend funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mass Works Infrastructure Program through the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development for $1.5 million to complete a portion of the Hamilton Canal District gateway improvements.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Council Noon, second by Council Martin. Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Noon.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mendonça.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
It's 9 yeas.
Next, we have subcommittee reports. Finance Subcommittee of September 3rd, 2013. Council Mendonça.
Yes, we've met a week ago. Just bear with me. Well, we did meet a week ago, and we had 3 items on the agenda. One of them was a report referred in May regarding Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the combined sewer overflow. So we reviewed that. I had some information related to the loan order for the wastewater treatment plant. So we had some questions answered about that. We then went on to have presentations regarding the loan order for the water treatment plant for $22.8 million. Presentation was presented and questions were answered. We were told that the water portion would not need a rate increase, that they had a healthy reserve at this time. We also had a presentation for the loan order for wastewater, $40 million. And again, questions were asked and answered. This particular loan order will require rate increases in the future, but the manager suggested that we might be able to offset some of that by a temporary decrease in the water rates. To offset that, since it would be on the same bill, one would just offset the other. And of course, this will go out to bonding, and of course, we had the good news recently about the raising of our bond rates, which will facilitate this bonding and save us quite a bit of money. In attendance were the three members of the subcommittee, myself, Councilor Martin, and Councilor Elliott. Also present were Councilor Mercier, Councilor Noon, Councilor Laurie, and Mayor Murphy. And then, of course, from the administration, we had Manager Lynch, Mr. Moses, Mr. Young from the wastewater, and Mr. Leah from the water treatment. And we had a motion at the subcommittee to recommend that the full council refer the matter to a public hearing as was originally suggested. So I'll make that motion that we refer the two loan orders to a public hearing. I believe the clerk has a date for that.
October 1st, I thought.
It'll be October 1st. If we could take those two separately, so vote to refer the two
Separately?
Separately.
Divide the question,
So
that's
the-
fine.
The motion then to refer the $40 million wastewater loan order to a public hearing for October 1st, 2013 at 7 p.m.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Motion by Councilman Mendonça to refer the water,
Loan order.
$22.8 million water loan order to a public hearing also on October 1st, 2013 at 7 p.m. Seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Motion to accept the report as a report of progress, so moved by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have general petitions. Miscellaneous petition by Mr. Daniel Kuchar. Request the city paint crosswalks at School and Liberty Streets, and Liberty and Powell and Gath Streets. Is Mr. Kuchar here?
He's not here.
Councilor Martin.
Move to refer the petition to the city manager for report and recommendation.
Motion to refer to the
Second.
city manager by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, miscellaneous petition by Mr. Robert K. Ahern, member of the RKACO LLC. Requests the city council approve a water tie-in to the city of Lowell water main located at Pemberton Street for a 4-unit condominium complex located at 75 Pemberton Street in Drake, Massachusetts. Is Mr. Ahern here?
Pemberton Street is partly in Lowell and partly in Drake, and the Pemberton Street residents who are in Drake tie into the City of Lowell water main, and I'd like to do the same thing for an affordable housing development we have planned at the end of Pemberton Street.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to refer to the Law Department. So moved by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miscellaneous petition by Ms. Laura Phillips, request one handicap parking sign at 38 London Street. I don't see Ms. Phillips here. Councilor Mercia?
Amend for a 60-day trial.
Motion to amend for the 60-day trial, seconded by Councilor Laurie, to amend and also to refer to the traffic engineer. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have a utility petition from National Grid to install underground conduit from manhole to the building at 27 Prescott Street. Entertain a motion to refer to a public hearing on October 1st, 2013, also at 7 p.m. So moved by Councilor Mendonça, second by Councilor Noon. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. First motion of the night by Councilor Laurie. Request the city manager have the law department issue an opinion on the policy of the combined city council and school committee selecting a board member for an open Greater Lowell vocational school committee seat. Sanctioned by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last July, I think it was, we voted to send a member to the Greater Lowell School Committee, and I'd made a motion at that point that we look into changing the policy and have it go to the person who came in second place. And in lieu of Councilor Kennedy's motion, which is moving on for one man, one vote, that the entire district would vote on the candidates, I was going to ask for the law department for ruling, should we now just give it to the person who came in second place? That way the people in the towns and Lowell would have voted on the individual, and that was the intent of the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Councilman Dancer.
If I could add to that request, the solicitor, I believe this is stipulated in the charter that formed the regional school district. So if the solicitor could also provide us with a description of how that charter could be amended in order to accomplish this. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion as amended? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Laurie, request the city manager, police department, and health department develop a policy regarding so-called club drugs such as acetyl fentanyl and MDMA Molly. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been, I've been following this story somewhat down in Boston. Their media has been writing about this for a couple of weeks now. This new drug, I guess the street name is Molly, is 5 times more powerful than heroin. I think it's pronounced Noctane. When someone overdoses, they administer to the person overdosing, and they have so much time to bring it back. What's happening down in Boston, it's my understanding that that instrument isn't strong enough to bring the person back. So I'm just asking the police department and the health department to look at this. Is there a possible way of getting a stronger dose of this Noctane to help? The Boston nightclub the Boston area has an active nightclub life throughout the summer. Our students are just coming back from UMass Lowell and Middlesex, and our nightlife will be kicking up over the next, if it hasn't already cooked up last weekend, it's going to start picking up over the next couple of weeks. So I'm just looking for the city to be prepared if we do run into a problem with this drug, that we're prepared to deal with it and help with in the medical situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. This motion by Councilor Laurie requests the City Council adopt a policy of a moment of silence for all Lowell residents who have passed away the prior week. Seconded by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion comes actually from going through the neighborhoods, knocking at doors. People see the moments of silence, and how does it come about? Sometimes someone knows a counselor. Sometimes the family will call or they'll notify a counselor. And I guess the idea is it would be nice if we could recognize everybody who lived in Lowell or had some type of activity in Lowell during the course of the meeting. Now, this, of course, wouldn't restrict a counselor from coming forward and say, geez, I know so-and-so, and continue the practice we do now. I don't know if we would publish the names or put them into the official record. I think that's up for discussion. We could go with the health department, the deaths that week, the families may want to notify the city. But I think it's something we could look at, and it would really be something for all the citizens of Lowell. Anyone who had really something to do that we want to bring forward, have a moment of silence for them. But again, it would not restrict a counselor from bringing in the name and saying, well, I know so-and-so, and I'd like to add a little story or a little something about that person.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Kennedy.
If there's no objection, I would like to move that this motion be referred to the Rules Committee for report and recommendation of the full City Council.
Motion to refer to the Councilor Laurie?
No, I was going to second it.
Motion to refer to the Rules Subcommittee, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Mercia, request the city manager provide a report from property department on when it's permissible to call 911 and provide a review of the 911 recording of Tuesday, September 3rd, 2013 at 11:45 p.m. Seconded by Councilor Leahy. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It has come to my attention through a constituent that on the night of Tuesday, September 3rd, which was last week at 11:45, a woman heard like a hissing sound very strongly, so she looked out the window and she spotted a ponytailed person with a large screwdriver puncturing tires. So she immediately dialed 911, to which the person on the other end of the phone said, "This is not an emergency, call the other number." The panicking woman said, "I believe it is an emergency," to which the person on the other end of the phone said, "Well, did someone die?" And the lady said, "No." "Well, call the other number," said the person on the other end of the phone. Now, we're told to be the eyes and ears of the community. We're told to be a partner to help keep crime down. And when we follow these rules, we end up doing what appears to be wrong. The lady was all upset about this, but here's my take on it. This woman was being a good citizen. She was witnessing a crime in progress, a very expensive crime in progress. Do you happen to know how much tires cost lately? It is a very expensive crime, especially if you need 4 new tires. No one died, but had the woman ventured out to confront the perpetrator, then that screwdriver could have been the instrument to puncture her heart or her lung. Then maybe 911 could have been called properly. So, having heard the story, I like a ruling as to, was this lady wrong in calling 911? I thought when a crime was in progress, that was an emergency. I'm not saying that the police did an excellent job because this ponytailed individual happened to be a woman. They caught this woman up by Calorie Park, and the person had slashed 12 tires. Now, I think we want to send a message for help in the community to be the eyes and ears, and then when someone panics like that, the first thing and she was an elderly woman, and she called the first thing she could think of, and when she was told to call the other number, her mind went blank. She didn't know what that was, and all this time is going by. Luckily, they caught the person, but I don't know if there was, I don't know, but you can hear it on the tape. I did say in the motion what time it was, what day it was. It was just before, I'm not gonna guess on what day it was, but I mean, I know that there's emergencies where people are getting shot at and murdered and this and that. I understand that, but to me, this was an emergency. So I wanna know what's an emergency and what isn't. I don't know.
Mr. Manager.
We'll do some work on this. I did, when I saw this motion, I tried to prepare a little bit for some things that might come up so that, and I did a little bit of work on this, and I'm somewhat familiar with the way you've described it in terms of the, some people doing damage to the tires. And, but based upon what you've now described, the back and forth sounds a little bit different than the way it was described to me. So let us go back and review the transcript to see. The issue that we do have with, I agree with you that is an emergency. There's a crime in progress. That's a 911 call. There's a crime in progress, and that they should be called. I think the general protocol is when people call, the first thing that they're told is it's Lowell Public Safety or Lowell Dispatch. What's the nature of your emergency? And they go on to describe it. We do often have problems with people calling and asking for directions or what time buildings.
Right.
Clearly, that's not what happened here. So, but in those calls, we'll refer those off. This one, though, let me go back and review the transcript. We do have a policy of what constitutes an emergency. We'll get that for the council. But clearly, I agree with you that this was an emergency.
If I could just add one more thing. I did know that in our packet from Cheryl Wright, the city auditor, she gave us grants that were the June and July grants, and in one of the items was 911 training, $64,451. Let's hope that we can justify and be a little more lenient. And it isn't, can you tell me directions? We simply know the difference between that. But a crime in progress to say, call another number, if they could learn that, to me, that's a crime.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any further? Councilor Elliott.
Yeah, I think it's a good motion, because I actually know, having known somebody in the neighborhood that was affected by that crime. So I think it makes sense, and I think furthermore, there were a number of a number of B&Es in the neighborhood prior to that. So I'm sure the woman that made the call was, she was on, heightened awareness as to what was going on in the neighborhood, because it wasn't just a random act of somebody going on in the neighborhood. There was some other incidences that had taken place. So I think it's a good motion, and it would be good to get a report as to, and get that information out to the public. What is the criteria? So, because I can remember sitting at a public safety meeting saying they do, the police department, they do get inundated with calls, 911 calls. Some, should be, some calls should just go to the front desk. So, in any event, thank you.
Anyone else on the motion? Councilor Kennedy.
Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, do you know the answer to this? If I call in with the 911 call, and it's something that maybe isn't of an emergency basis, are they just able to transfer me to somebody else? Do I have to, is it necessary for me to hang up, call the other number? I mean, how does that?
I don't have an absolute answer on that. I don't think it is possible to do that, because the 911 comes across on a public safety specially designed line so that they can check with, but I'd have to double check that. I know that myself, when I've called 911, I've been transferred over. I believe I've been transferred over to the commanding officer when needed, but I don't know if that would allow to transfer over to a non-business line, because there's a certain number of 911 lines we have, and obviously we want to free those up.
Okay.
But we can include that in the report as well.
Anyone else wishing to speak on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. If Councilman Dodson would take the chair, please.
Next motion by Mayor Murphy. Request city manager, in addition to implementing adopt-a-lot program, mark properties as city-owned with signage, information, links to website with plans, and space for input from local residents. Second by Councilor Mercer. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was a motion I made earlier, but there was a response given at the last meeting that I didn't have a chance to actually address. So I've submitted a motion for tonight. This is really, what was said in the response is that the city will develop a list of these properties and advertise them in the local paper, a list of these so that people know about them. But I think a better way to do it is really to do it on site so that people are more aware, and people that are most affected by the property itself, so that you have neighbors and people that regularly walk by these properties that would tend to have more ideas about how they might use them if they were available, that this would provide some kind of forum for input there. The city's doing something similar to this with the economic development, with the neighbor land program, where people are able to give their input on particular buildings, and to try and continue that participatory sort of approach, I think would be wise in actually having an outlet on site for people to weigh in and then link up to somewhere on the website, so that you get more and more input and hopefully better ideas on how to use these types of properties. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Next motion by Mayor Murphy. Request city manager report on the status of city-owned stone building on the Starclosa School campus and abandoned block building on the Butler and Shaughnessy School campuses. Second by Councilor Noon. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hadn't known that the prior item would be on tonight's agenda, but these are two properties, one city-owned, one privately owned, that are both on the campuses of these particular schools. And I share the concerns of Council Leahy that these be used in accordance with what the school department really would see fit for them. I think that the school department is the entity that should be consulted first in these particular properties, particularly the building that we own, because there might be some plans. As I discussed with a few officials from the school department, they weren't aware necessarily that this was something that could be used in the future for the school department, and so I think that's something that might need to be worked out, because there are some potential uses for it, I think, that would complement the Stocklosa School, and if the other building at the Butler and Shaughnessy School campus were to be eventually taken by tax title, that I'm sure that the school department would want to have some say over what happens there. So I'd appreciate a report to that end. Thank you.
Council Laurie?
Thank you. The block building, I think, that we're talking about is the old Luz Monuments, and that's been vacant for some time. All due respect to the school department, they may have a use for it, but a couple of months ago, I put in some new splash pads, and I think in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start breaking ground, or at least announce a splash pad going to O'Donnell's Park in the Grove, and that might be something the city itself could look at. We have the tennis courts there, we have the basketball courts, and I think Councilor Noon had put in a motion some time ago to have them looked at to be redone, but that might be something with the splash pad going into O'Donnell's in the next couple of, well, starting in the next couple of weeks, that the city might look at too for some use. I think that will increase, I'm sure that will increase the use of O'Donnell's Park. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next motion by Mayor Murphy. Request city manager develop work plan with the Flats neighborhood to clear Katz Alley and reclaim stretch of city-owned land along west bank of Hales Brook on Chamber Street for construction and of residential bike and pedestrian path and eventual Lawrence Street crossing to the Concord River Greenway. Second by Council Laurie. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is something that I've discussed with the city manager. I think it's a worthwhile project and one that could be done with few resources. The Katz Alley is a passageway that runs from Gorham Street to Lawrence Street. That's city-owned, and certainly is a site for a lot of dumping in overgrown areas. So this could really clean that area up. But that could link to another city-owned site that's really been used as a parking lot for some of the businesses there and even some residents. But to clean that stretch of green space up and for use to get out onto Gorham Street and connect the residents there to Gorham Street and maybe the LRTA and that sort of thing in the short term. In the long term, I think it could be the first stretch from the Concord River Greenway over to the Bruce Freeman Trail, which connects to the entire Bay Circuit Trail. So I think it's something that's worth looking into, and like I say, because it's all city-owned land, it's something that's doable. Thank you.
Council Laurie.
Thank you. I've been dealing with the manager's office now for about a year with Katz Alley. I think Councilor Mendonca's been down there. I've talked to some residents. I know Councilor, and maybe there's been other councilors involved in this, but I know Councilor Mendonca, especially near Crosby Street, there's been a lot of dumping. And more recently, I think it was in the spring, between Whipple and Lawrence Street, there was someone, I think, living on one of the side streets that might have dumped. I think some of the people maybe on Watson Street might use that as an entrance into a garage. And I think farther down near Lawrence Street, if I remember correctly, some members of the Silver and Balakan families and maybe others have taken care of that land. I was just wondering if you had a status report on the work we're doing there, and I know the manager's been involved in this also.
Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, it is an area that is being cleared. We have been doing some work down that area. A number of people have spoken to us about this, and we've been trying to get in there and do this work. There are a number of residents that have used the area for their personal use over time, and it has been with some dumping. But the Lawrence to Whipple block has been completed, and the Lawrence to Crosby is 30% completed as of Friday this last week. So we're continuing to move forward with that to get that Cat's Alley and the other locations that we're looking at here. We'll be happy to look at a plan to do some work in those areas and keep that up and going.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Next motion by Mayor Murphy. Request city manager develop outreach plan with Lowell Community Health Center and other relevant partners to help residents become aware and take advantage of upcoming Affordable Care Act health insurance marketplace. Second by Councilor Mercier. Mayor Murphy.
Mr. Chair, as with a number of other federal programs, the Earned Income Tax Credit and fair housing laws, the city does have some role to play in making sure that our residents are able to fully take advantage of the laws that are out there, protections that are in place. And I do know that the Lowell Community Health Center was awarded a grant to help with this outreach so that people who aren't currently covered, I know it's a smaller group here in Massachusetts, but to get those people who aren't currently covered into some kind of insurance coverage, potentially through this change in the law, which takes effect on October 1st. So I appreciate some kind of plan that's put together in conjunction with them and other people where it would make sense. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And the last motion of the evening by Mayor Murphy. Request city manager report on implementation of rental inspection ordinance to date. Second by Councilor Noon. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you. This is very simply just to get an update. I know Boston had adopted a similar ordinance a few months prior to us, and they've faced some challenges with the return of students to school, colleges throughout the city, and hopefully we can come up with some efforts with the university to address any issues that might happen there, but also to get an update on the policy more broadly. Thank you.
Is there any registered speakers? I see someone in the back with his hand up, but he didn't register to speak with the clerk. What's the wish of the body?
Motion to waive.
Suspend the rules to
Motion
allow
to
this
suspend the rules
gentleman.
by Councilor Mercier, second by Mayor Murphy. All those in favor of suspending rules so that the gentleman can address us, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Sir, could you state your name and address, please?
John Perper is my name. I've been a landlord full-time for 32 years in the city. And as I recall reading that...
Could you give us your address, please, for the record?
All right. I live in Westford. It's 44 South Chelmsford Road, but I have rentals. I've had upwards of 86 of them in the city of Lowell in the last 32 years. I've maintained my properties in a fairly good condition. And one question I'd like to know, is this going to be inspected by health inspectors or building inspectors?
Mr. Manager.
These are under the rental ordinance. These are inspected by the health.
They will be health department.
Okay.
All right. From my perspective, it seems if they're going to come out to a large building and they inspect 2 or 3, and they seem to be okay, they're going to bill us for all the other units. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Well, that looks like a tax and feels like a tax because I have nothing back for that. You've not earned it. You've not worked for it. And it looks like a tax for myself and other landlords around. and it's just another way of collecting money. But the idea is that landlords in court, and of all times in the city, we're the largest retailer of products in this city. There's approximately 20,000 rentals, if I'm correct, in the city of Lowell. At 900, that means we bring in about $18 million a month. But we never seem to be treated like we're businessmen. We're treated like landlords, like a down look. I'm a businessman. This is how I make my living. And now when you come along, and it seems to me that you're taxing me as another, I know the city's struggling for money, but we are too. The cost of goods, the cost of materials have gone up in everything I do. I just purchased 6 windows for a little over $1,000. I haven't got them yet. About 5 or 6 years ago, the same windows were $800. So this is just I just don't agree with this inspection. But I also know inspectors could use it if they come to a building and find 2 units and find a couple of flaws. And I'm being honest with you people. They could use it as an excuse to continue the inspections. And I don't mind that. As long as the flaw they found, if it was a habitable one, I could say the inspections have to stop. Habitable will be with which every one of you at one time or another have had a dripping faucet, am I right? Or a hole in your screen. Or maybe a Leno had a little scratch in it. That's enough to write you up and give an excuse to inspect all the other units. Or a water stain on your ceiling. Now, if he wants to find things like that for that unit and write it up, yes. But I would not like to see that as an excuse to be able to now ramble through 8 or 10 or 12 units and charge me $40 for every unit. I don't know what it's, or a cracked window and a thermopane. I've seen you get a little crack with a thermopane there. I've lived with that in my house, and I'm sure many of you have too. These are small, what I would call habitable flaws that every one of you, without even, every one of you have lived with that and it's not hurt anything. But if they find serious flaws, then I say, go ahead and look at all my units next and continue. That's my objection. I think it's a tax. It looks like a tax, smells like a tax. And that if they want to use any excuse to continue to expect more units, I don't think they should be able to. There needs to be some guidelines for allowing him. Now, if you go, there are some slumlords. Every one of you know that. Now, if you want to go to a building, you got a landlord that most people, the inspectors all know, and they know us, and they come in and find one thing, and just continue to go through every unit. I don't think that's justified. It puts an undue burden on us as landlords. That's all I want to say.
Thank you for your statement. Councilor Kennedy.
Can I just ask something? Oh, something he said. If there's a 12-unit building, when that building's inspected, do they just inspect 2 or 3 of the units?
No, generally when it's I don't recall the specific number that triggers it, but when it's a 12-unit building, they'll do all 12 units. But if it's a 100 units, 90 to 100 units, they'll do spot checks of various units, and they reserve the right to go through all of them. But what we're trying to do is not to be onerous to the landlords as well as we go through those. To require everyone to be opened up and gone through. But obviously this is, as the council knows, this is a program that's been extremely well received by the residents of the city and the tenants of these properties, that there is an inspection taking place. And in fact, we've received very positive feedback from some of the landlords that, obviously they're perhaps not crazy about paying the fee, but they appreciate the fact that there's someone coming in and certifying their property as a habitable unit, a quality unit that meets the requirements of the city.
Okay, I think that's it.
But we'll be happy to address that. That may be some good information to in the report to the motion too.
Councilor Laurie.
Thank you. Some time ago, this ordinance came up again on the council floor, and I think there were several councilors, including myself, if not all the councilors. We talked about the fee for multi-families. It's, I suppose, at $40 or $50 a unit?
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years, but if someone goes and there's 6 units, and of course you're not, isn't that going to be a reduced rate?
I don't believe so. I'd have to check the ordinance again, but I don't believe so.
I thought there was some talk, if it doesn't, you know, if you have a two-family and the inspector's going all over the city, and of course it's 2-2, but if there were 6 or 7, I thought we had talked, okay.
Council Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I believe that when a person makes a motion, there are people that are registered to speak, and sometimes we suspend the rules, and there is another woman, there's a woman here ready to speak on this particular motion.
Councilor Mercier, suspend the rules to allow another speaker, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Ma'am, if you name and address, please.
I'm Priscilla Hilliard, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, a landlord in Lowell. I've been involved with inspections for over 25 years. I have no concern with the inspections. I'm concerned with when you're doing them. We used to always have it when the landlord had control. Before a tenant went in there, you were called in, the inspectional service. Now, I'm concerned that once I turn these keys over, we have no right of entry. In Massachusetts, first, the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution says we shouldn't be going in there. Secondly, we have in Massachusetts only 3 times that we're supposed to go in there. And if it's been abandoned, a court order, or to check for security deposit once we've been given notice. None of this comes under this here. And I'm concerned because now people have jobs. Once you turn the keys over, now we have to say to the tenant, listen, the city wants to come in. You got to take time out of work. And if they find something wrong, you got to take some more time out of work when the laborers come in to fix these. We used to have it that this was all done before you turn the keys over to the tenant. And I'm just concerned that we are not doing that now, that we're waiting until people get in there. They got their furniture, you could have holes in the walls, you could have furniture over rugs that are dirty. The best time to see a unit is when it's vacant. And I just don't see why we didn't stay with when it was vacant. I have over 20 years worth of certificates from your department. Wonderful people come out to visit my places. They're 5 minutes there, in and out. But once a person takes it and it's their home, we should not be going in there. We don't have the right to go in there and cause them to lose time out of work. And now you're increasing their rent. Now you've got all these things you want done after we've already established their rent. Tell us beforehand, and we can do a much better job. I had a tenant came to me as an example and said to me, gee, you know, my shower, it's horrible looking, it's got to be redone. I says, no problem, John, I'll take care of it. When it came time to do it, the laborers came in and said, oh, for 3 days he can't use his shower. My tenant was ecstatic. I can't use my shower for 3 days. This is a retired senior citizen who didn't go to work. Then I said, well, you know, John, I want to update your bathroom. I want to update your toilet. Oh, you're going to change my toilet? Every time, when you go into a person's place who's been living with you there, it's their home. They don't want you coming in. You're invading their privacy. This tenant had been with me for over 25 years. And the reason why I had to go in there, because now we got wonder board instead of the wall board that we used to have years ago. But you've created a nightmare now for landlords. Plus, if you got a 4-unit building and every apartment has to be looked at, now you got to have 4 tenants that are all going to take time out of work on the same day. It's hard to do. I don't know who was thinking of this when you came up with this change, but I'm concerned about it. And another thing is, we go up to $50. Well, guess what? Your inspectors come to my place. They spend 5 minutes there. I think when you've got a good landlord doing what they're supposed to do, $25 is enough. If you've got repeat offenders, you got to keep going out, charge them whatever you have to. All right, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
The motion requests a report from the manager regarding the implementation of the inspection ordinance to date. Any further? Councilor Elliott.
I do know this subject came up, I think it was at last month's Public Safety Subcommittee, when we had Eric Slagle in to give us a report. And at that point in time, just a couple of weeks ago, we're about a third of the way, so I thought it was around a third of the way through the inspections, and they seem to be going pretty well. So I can't remember how many violations were cited, Mr. Manager. He did state it at that meeting, though.
Right, and I can't recall that either, but we can include that within this report. But I concur with you, Council. That's the basic information we received.
Thank you.
Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just point out that the original intent behind the rental inspection ordinance was to provide the greatest amount of protection for the residents living in those apartments. And while there may be issues that are identified in the implementation of that ordinance, I think that intent remains, that despite it being a business, that I think people would also agree that there's a special obligation on the part of landlords to provide quality housing for the people that are housed within them. So I think the intent behind the ordinance is certainly a good one, and I hope that it can be worked through so that that intent is met. Thank you.
Okay, no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And if the mayor would resume the chair.
Next, we have executive session regarding pending litigation relative to the ZBA's decision in the Habit OPCO application, the methadone clinic, public discussion of which could have a detrimental effect on the city's position. I'd entertain a motion to enter executive session and to adjourn in executive session from that meeting.
So moved.
So moved by Council Mercia, second by Council Mendonça. Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Laurie.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mendonça.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.